Okay, so we have a pet dog on Dean's screen, and with Juliet, we're never far away from it all.
I was just about to say he's just stolen a milk carton. I don't know if you can hear him, but I'm like, mate, stop it.
That's really funny.
Comic Cuts. We're looking at a panel, and we comprise a panel. There's a few of us. So the panel sees a panel, then we talk about the comics. From the panel, we discuss, and we call it Comic Cuts. Be honest.
I love it.
I love it. I'm impressed that you did it live.
Today's recording may include strong language and adult themes, if you're really, really lucky. Hello and welcome to Comic Cuts, the panel show. My name's Kev F. Sutherland. You might know me as a writer and artist for Beano, Marvel Comics, Oink, Doctor Who, the Scottish Falsetto Sock Puppet Theatre, and my graphic novel adaptations of Shakespeare. But chances are, you probably don't. My guests today talking comics are Dean Friedman and Juliet Meyers.
Hello.
Hello.
I have two guests with me today who brought with them a panel from a comic or something close. We're going to see if we can identify it and talk about it. Maybe we and you will learn something about comics we didn't already know, or maybe we'll just show off a bit and have an enjoyable chat. Let's see. Joining me from Peekskill, upstate New York, is Dean Friedman. Hi, Dean.
Hey, Kev. Pleased to be here.
You're pleased to be here with your aircon in the background, a thunderstorm outside, am I right?
That's right. So everything is a little precarious. If my signal suddenly disappears, it is probably not a nuclear attack.
Now, everybody knows Dean in this country for Lucky Stars, which must be an absolute pain. I mean, is it a pain to be so known for one piece of music when you've made so much music?
Well, it is sort of a double-edged sword. But listen, I'm pleased that that there are folks out there that enjoy it, and although it is admittedly one of the corniest pop duets of all time, but I'm really, really proud of it.
It's so participatable. I mean, when you do it live, the whole audience joins in, right?
Yeah, my favorite part is when some big bloke in the front row goes, "Did you see Lisa? Do you still love me?" So yeah, it's always an adventure.
And you've been covered by Bare Naked Ladies and Ben Folds 5.
That's true. It's nice to have influenced a new generation of irresponsible, irrepressible songwriters,
including Half Man, Half Biscuit.
Oh yes, well that's another tale entirely.
Oh, go on, tell that tale.
All right, real briefly, I was in New York and got a call from a good friend in London, Andy. He said, "Dean, something's going on here you need to know about." I said, "All right, what?" And he said, "Well, there's a punk band out of Merseyside named Half Man, Half Biscuit." I said, "That's a funny name for a band." He said, "That's not the funny part, Dean." I said, "Oh, what's the funny part?" He goes, "Well, they just put out a best-selling EP, and the title track is The Bastard Son of Dean Friedman." Now, I was skeptical. I thought he was just kidding until I landed at Heathrow Airport to start a tour. And sure enough, there was the EP, Bastard Son of Dean Friedman, at which point I got a little bit nervous, as you might imagine. After all, I am Dean Friedman. And I was increasingly concerned until I finally did the math. I calculated that in order for me to have fathered this guy, Nigel Blackwell, the lead singer-songwriter for Half Man, Half Biscuit, I would have had to have done so when I was 7. So I was greatly relieved. Although I listened to it, it's a hilarious song. Your listeners should check it out. Just type in "The Bastard Son of Dean Friedman," and you'll hear it. And Nigel Blackwell, terrific songwriter. Half Man, Half Biscuit, a kicking band. And although I did vow that one day I would exact my revenge, which I finally did when I wrote A Baker's Tale, which is the tale of the dubious origins of one Nigel Blackwell of Half Man, Half Biscuit.
Which is worth checking out online as well. And one thing I didn't know, because I know you obviously as a singer-songwriter, was that you were a video games designer at some point. The video game Eater Bug. That's you, right?
That is me. And after I was dropped by my label, when McDonald's Girl was banned by the BBC, I spent a lot of time working with synthesizers and just exploring, new cutting-edge audio and video technologies. And I saw a demonstration of a camera-based VR system, which was the predecessor to the Microsoft Kinect, or Wii, where you're inside a video game and interacting with objects. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. It's magical. And I bought a developer's kit, and I just fooling around designed a game called Eat a Bug, which I somehow managed to license to Nickelodeon television. So for a few years, late 80s, early 90s, I was designing and developing all these leading edge VR games for TV and children's museums and theme parks all over the world. It was a crazy time. It was a little ahead of its time, and eventually I was drawn back into the wild world of music, where I continue to pursue whatever it is I do,
including the new album American Lullaby, which I've had the extreme privilege to hear an advance copy of, which I've got to say, it could be your best album.
That's really nice to hear, Kev. You try, not rest on whatever laurels you have, if you have any. It's sort of a chronicle of these last 6 crazy years that this world has been experiencing, sort of seen through a lens going back 400 years, because, we didn't get here overnight, dealing with just our history of violence, in spite of all the elevated things that we keep aspiring to do. And our impossible to understand love affair with guns that we have in America, which is this unique obsession. Anyway, so I try to deal with that. And it's an American lullaby because, like all lullabies, it tries to address difficult subjects. So, yeah, it deals with our original sins, but it's also, it's filled with, humor and ridiculousness, and just tries to put it all in context. Because, as Juliet well knows, you can't remain sane without having a sense of humor about all the inanities that surround us.
Now, talking of my second guest and connecting you in a way that I was quite pleased to find when I was researching you both, Dean, I hadn't realised that your sister was a TV producer and executive producer of the sitcom Blossom. Am I right?
That's true, yeah. She was a writer and producer out on the West Coast. And has done a lot of TV work.
And although it's neither of your greatest claims to fame, you both have siblings who made TV shows. Juliet, your brother produced current BAFTA winner I May Destroy You.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is. It's weird because I sort of feel like I'm trying to claim it as a bit of like, well, book me. If you like him, book me.
Another thing for getting booked is the titles of the various shows we put together. And you've got one of my favourite dated titles for one of your Edinburgh shows from maybe about 10 years ago, was it? Meyers.
Oh, yes.
Try and explain that to the kids.
I know.
What was the theme of Meyers?
I think it was just, the theme was pretty much me. It was just a neat title, but yes, massively, massively dated. The show was in a nightclub space that flooded regularly, and it was one of the most horrendous years for doing Edinburgh. It was the first time I'd ever felt a bit old because I wanted to say to them, can you turn on some lights, please? It's just eternally dark. But I think the final day, just as I was beginning to despair, I went in and someone had pulled the toilets off the wall and it had flooded everywhere. And one of the other comedians was so sweetly helping mop up, whereas I just stood on the sidelines and swore.
Well, it seems to me, Juliet, you could have retitled it Mayim Space, because that's Hebrew for water. And that's also Mayim Bialik's first name from Blossom.
Oh, of course, yes.
A theme going in there.
Yes.
The Edinburgh Fringe experience is an odd thing to explain to anybody who's never been there. Pretty well everyone who describes an Edinburgh show describes something that you would never want to go to. They describe usually a disaster. And people are always asked, comedians always ask, so why do you do it? So why do you do it?
I think it's because I think it is a compulsion. And I suppose because it's nice to be able to be working on something that you feel is truly yours and not just something for a Friday night and a Saturday night crowd.
For people who have never been to the Edinburgh Fringe, what they probably don't realise is if you see comedians in comedy clubs, they'll usually perform for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes if you're lucky, if they're lucky. Sometimes they're only performing for 7 minutes at a time. And the Edinburgh Fringe and the touring shows that go with it, one of the few times you get to perform an hour-long, usually themed show. I mean, are yours usually themed, or do you just stick all your stuff together and time it?
I think I've done both, but latterly they've been themed. Yeah. I always liken it a bit to loads of sperm going towards an egg, and everyone's just all these comedians going in trains and cars towards the Edinburgh Fringe. And one of us.
One of us makes that great big breakthrough, which is Live at the Apollo.
Yes. Oh, God.
Now, some of your themes recently have included Homer. And before anybody thinks you're getting too highfalutin with your classical references, tell us who Homer is.
Homer is my rescue dog from Portugal. He's an ex-street dog. I'd wanted a dog for years. Like, I'd always wanted a dog and thought, I can't have a dog because my life doesn't allow it. And then actually I got a review in Edinburgh that I thought was slightly insulting, and it almost made me go, I'm giving up comedy, I'm getting a dog. The rescue centre were like, I said, I'm inquiring about Homer, and they said, do you want to go and see him? And I said, yes, please. But it did go quite quickly. So then one night in a comedy club, the promoter said to me, can you go on later? And I said, but I've got to collect the dog. And I thought about lying and saying, I've got to collect my child. And he said, you could have brought the dog. And when I did that club, which is Top Secret Comedy Club in London, I did take Homer with me. And weirdly, like, I thought he was going to look after Homer, but he said, no, I can't. I'm comparing. So I took Homer on stage. He took to it like a duck to water and was shaking hands with people and, walking up and down the aisles, schmoozing and yawning and cleaning himself during my punchlines. So then this sort of semi-double act was born, and I did my show with Homer. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I have asked everyone on the panel to bring a panel to the panel. You can see these images on my website at kevfcomicartist.com, or you should find them on the holding artwork for this episode of the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. But don't worry if you can't see the images we're about to look at, because we're going to describe them. And I think I'd like to begin by looking at the image that Juliet has brought. There, we are looking at a panel brought by Juliet Meyers. Now, Juliet, don't spoil anything for us yet, because Dean, you're going to describe this for the innocent listener at home. What are we looking at?
All right, well, we're looking at a classic bit from Peanuts cartoons, Charlie Brown and his gang. And it's the meme where Lucy is taking away the football after convincing Charlie Brown that she promises she's not going to pull it away as he tries to kick it. And he has this eternal forgiveness and faith that the same stupid thing is not going to happen again. But sure enough, she pulls away the football and he goes flying on his ass. But this interpretation of that, instead of Charlie Brown and Lucy, it's a Charlie Brownish caricature of our erstwhile U.S. president, Trump, as Charlie Brown, and instead of Lucy yanking the football out of his path, it's a certain North Korean dictator with this that same Il Young, whatever his name is, haircut and suit, with a big smile on his face, having done the same thing everyone knew he was going to do time and time and time again. Which is keep testing his nuclear long-range missiles. Absolutely. So it's a hilarious strip.
Listener at home, usually by now I would have been describing the line work, I'd be describing the techniques that we used, and we'd still be guessing at where this comes from. But of course, as Dean has said, it's impossible to look at this and not immediately see Charles M. Schultz's Charlie Brown, and then almost immediately afterwards realize we're looking at a parody of it. So there's nothing I can tell you about it, except that it's in color, which was quite unusual. Only the Sunday strips of Peanuts were usually in color. The daily strips were in black and white, but this is a parody anyway. So I think the onus is on Dean and I to guess where this parody could be from. Dean, where would you think this was from?
Gee, not a clue, I have to confess, but it is hilarious every time I look at it again.
And I'm thinking, because Juliet's brought it in, it's got to be from some magazine. I would have said, because of the political satire, that it was National Lampoon, but that would have to be back in the day because there is no National Lampoon anymore. And, well, I don't know what parody magazines there are. I can only think of Mad Magazine. And I don't think Mad Magazine's even around anymore, is it? Juliet, put us out of our misery. Where's it from?
I believe it is Mad Magazine.
Okay.
I did get it off the internet, I have to admit. But as far as I know, it is Mad Magazine, and it is still going in some shape or form.
I guess Mad continues online, and an old guy like me thinks of Mad Magazine as a thing that's a magazine. I mean, Dean, did you read Mad as a kid?
Oh, absolutely. I had the Mad burp record, and read it religiously.
When they started repeating, they were constantly doing reprints over here, and there was a pull-out section in the centre, this is the late 70s, which would include reprints of the Harvey Kurtzman Mads from 1950 to 54, however long they ran, which was a totally different magazine because it was a comic book, a full-colour comic book, all done with strips. But by the time of the 70s, it became the Mad magazine that we will recognise, where you'd have a parody of a movie up front, a parody of a movie or TV show up back, and then lots of illustrated text humour. Juliet, tell us more about Mad.
See, for me, what I loved about Mad was that my brother got it. My older brother got it when I was a kid.
Right.
And there was something so wonderful. Just as a kid, we just adored how transgressive it seems and how naughty it seems. And the guy, what was he? I can't remember what he was called now. Alfred, the goofy guy.
Alfred E. Newman.
That's right.
What, me worry?
He was so creepy.
There are some faces that are very creepy. Howdy Doody, not pretty well known over here, but he's got a really scary face, Howdy Doody, the ventriloquist doll. And Alfred E. Newman, I don't know if it's the wideness of his face or just the distorted and yet near realism.
Yes, like my brother and I would get the magazine and my parents would always be like, oh, we don't like it, but we loved it because we got it, you know, and it almost felt like reading something we weren't supposed to. But for me, I hadn't realized until recently that Mad used to parody a lot of Peanuts and Snoopy.
Right.
And to me, they're two of my favorite things. You know, like I read so much Snoopy and Peanuts. I'm going to have to stop there and say I've never fully understood the difference between Snoopy and Peanuts.
Peanuts was the name that Charles M. Schulz was given for the strips. He never wanted to call it Peanuts. It started off called Lil Folk, L''IL folk, and he would have liked to have called it Charlie Brown, who was his favourite lead character, and then later Snoopy would have been an obvious title. But by then, United Feature Syndicate, I think it was. Anyway, they gave him the name. They said it's called Peanuts, and they'd syndicated it, and then there was nothing he could do about it. But he hated the title. I guess it grew on him with the encroaching years and money. But
you'd think
the movies are all called Charlie Brown and Peanuts, Charlie Brown's Christmas, Snoopy's, whatever.
Yeah. And I just loved, I absolutely, you know, even now I always think of Charlie Brown being so anxious and Snoopy just being like, whatevs. And that's just me and Homer again. We're both dumb, but one of us is kind of perfectly happy. And the other one's going, oh, no, I better do this. Or what should I say there?
Yeah, the Charlie Brown roster of characters, who, by the way, we're now talking about Charlie Brown. We've dropped Mad. We're talking Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown's rosters of characters. Is that the thunder at your end, Dean?
That's the thunder
That's
out the window.
amazing.
Yes. But speaking of Charlie Brown and Peanuts, if I could just add, I'm one of 4 kids, and I have an older sister, Erica. And the best way to get her totally furious was to call her Lucy. Because she had, I can't deny it, she had Lucy's personality. She could be really mean and, yank that football out of your way. But and still to this day, if you even allude to her, being called Lucy, she'll just get the stern expression of fury.
He did capture so many great archetypes where you've got Schroeder, you've got Linus, you've got Pigpen, you've got Patty, and such different characters. None could read the other person's lines.
No, and Patty, actually, I remember being intrigued by, but as a kid, you just sort of notice something, but you don't question it, that, that she was this sort of tomboyish, not caring, slightly odd character, which was quite refreshing. Yeah, I don't know if she identifies as gender non-binary, but, it was...
Such an advanced strip, which will be why it survived so well, because he goes through the 60s and he's challenging, just like the kids who by then are 15, 20 years younger than him. He's challenging society just like they am. He's not being a reactionary by any means.
No. And I just love that. But also I was going to say... I love the fact that he was perfectly okay with Mad playing around with his strips and aging Charlie and, kind of utterly taking the mickey and making it a lot more subversive. But he was like, you know what, I love it.
It must be weird when you've got to that position in the culture that you are so revered that everybody automatically has to mock you. You're automatically public domain or fair game. Who else would be as big as Charles Schulz and Peanuts as far as comic strips were concerned in the late 20th century? Hard to think of anyone. And the Funny Pages. Dean, you did the song Funny Pages.
Funny Papers off my, I guess, my very first album. And that was an important part of Sunday, was picking up the Sunday news and sitting around reading the Funny Papers. You know, when I grew up with black and white television, and when our neighbors across the street got their first color TV, the colors were so rich and vibrant that you could see them across the street through their window. Like all these oranges and blues and greens radiating, and literally radiating. So I think I became addicted to that kind of impact, that sort of color. So the Funny Papers, we still get Prince Valiant reprinted here. And, with all the rich illustrations and backgrounds. And
the heyday of those newspaper strips really comes about because it's the only place that you can get that stuff. The only place you can get the variety of artists making humor, making adventure, making political cartoons, making spot cartoons, making continued cartoons. All those things happen in the syndicated pages. And for some listeners in the UK won't realize that American papers syndicate from a central base because you get local papers. There's very few national papers. And so every city would have a different lineup of characters. Some people might be getting Doonesbury and Peanuts and Dick Tracy. And then the next town along would be getting a different lineup of characters. And maybe not everybody got everything or had to get 2-3 papers in order to get everything that the rest of the country might have been talking about.
Well, I've never mentioned this to you, Kev, but it just occurred to me that before I was ever born, my father, who eventually became a director of TV commercials, his first gigs at a college, he went to art college, he did a comic strip called Willy Woo, and about this talking zebra. And I've only been able to find like just 2 panels in old archival newspaper clippings. But he did the illustration. I forget the woman who wrote the stories and text, but that's how he started out, first as an illustrator, then as an animator, and then he just went into live action directing. But he also did cartoons for color forums. He designed like Miss Cookie's kitchen and Miss Cookie's playroom. So when I was a little kid, he would have these color forums cutouts that he would be working on and designing all over the kitchen table. And as a kid, we would try them out and test them out. So it was a medium that it was a big part of my growing up, and I guess I never got over it.
How fantastic. So we've just been looking at Mad Magazine's parody, signed by someone whose name appears to be Chaffee, a parody of Charles M. Schulz's Peanuts from Mad Magazine from the 2020s. And now I think we should have a look at what Dean has brought along. Now, listener at home, you should be able to see this image on the website, kevfcomicartist.com, and on the holding image for this episode of the podcast, depending on where you get your podcasts from. But don't worry if you can't see the image, because we are about to describe it. Aren't we, Juliet?
Yes. Wow. God, where to start? So there is what to me looks like a really ugly, pervy guy grabbing the arse, or the ass, for American listeners, of a woman. I don't know. I'm trying to read the speech captions at the same time for any clues of who the woman is. He is grabbing the arse cheek of this woman who's got a big bum, a very curvaceous, nice bum, but a big bum. And the guy has got like spectacles on that are kind of nerdy, and he's got gappy teeth, and he's ugly. And there's also it looks like he's slapping it rather than grabbing it, and he's saying, "Don't worry, I like your body. I'd keep you around just for this butt." Ooh. Oh my God, that thing is a wonder of nature. And then he's saying, "Ulk, gulp." and she's looking kind of slightly vacant into the middle distance. No, he's not quite grabbing her boob. He's grabbing around the side with the other hand. She's saying, what about my personality?
For the benefit of the panelologists at home who study line and technique, I can tell you that this is a line drawing done, I would say, in pen, although it will include some brush. Yeah. It's a black and white drawing intended to be seen in black and white. I don't think it's ever been intended to be seen in colour. There's lots of hatching, and there's lots of texture in a bare wood floor, and the hatched shadows on chairs, tablecloths, and a sink unit behind. It's a very characteristic style that I instantly recognise. So my guess will come second. Juliet, do you want to have a guess at where you think this may be from?
I don't know. See, I'm intrigued because even though the guy is horrific, I'm assuming it's something pretty intelligent and that it's sending up the guy. It's, it's not meant as someone going, oh, yeah. It feels very intelligent. It feels quite, I use this word in a very broad brushstroke, quite beatniky and bohemian. But what it's from... Could you guess maybe at a decade it could be from? 60s?
Okay, well, I'm going to say that I know that the artist is Robert Crumb, and anybody who's seen Robert Crumb's artwork will be familiar with his style. The creepy, ugly guy with the glasses and the moustache is also, I believe, Robert Crumb. He's putting himself in the stories, as he does with many, many of his works, and he's being quite cruel to himself. He's been quite cruel to the whole rest of the world, and whether he's seeing the woman's side of the story, well, we'll find out. I'm going to guess, and I don't know where it's from. Is it from Zap Comics, which would be circa 1969? Dean, tell us.
This is a panel from one of my favorite comic collections, which is called Dirty Laundry. And it's by R. Crumb and his wife, Aileen Kaminsky, together. And it's a really unique collection. R. Crumb is pretty much the godfather of underground comics. He drew Mr. Natural, Fritz the Cat, and was really at the head of the underground comic scene in the United States. And all his work is very self-deprecating. He's an admitted sex perv. His comics are filled with convoluted, physically impossible sex acts, but also infused with really insightful views of human behavior during that, early and, even to modern day, but originally with that hippie era, that ethos. He and his wife, lived for a while in a commune, but they wound up in France. What's really unique and special about these comics, as opposed to all his other work, is that he described it in some ways as that he and Aileen Kaminsky, who's a Jewish girl from Long Island, are the John and Yoko of the underground comic world. Because what he did is she did her own underground comics, and he invited her to co-write the comic series with him. And so all these comic collections are a collaboration, both in the artwork and the drawings, because she draws herself and he draws himself.
Right.
And
wow.
He draws some panels, the text, and she responds with her panels in the text. So it's a really in-depth, intimate, personal, observational work about their marriage, about their life together and their kid. And it gets, really, really intimate and, shockingly so. But also, it's so relatable if you have come from some like this environment. And just to be clear, even though he seems to be abusing her, she gives as good as she gets. And she, it's really refreshing and liberating. And they share sort of mutually compatible aspects, in terms of their view of sex and life and independence, but it's this window to their world, which they're unabashed about, that is just really amazing and delightful. And they've been doing it for years. And then they had a daughter, Sophie, and they brought her along to have comics as well. It's certainly stuff that might not be suitable for children, which he acknowledges in the comic book. One of the panels on that page was, "Oh my God, what's going to happen when my daughter looks at this comic? How am I going to explain it to her?"
Well, yeah, that's the problem with a lot of Crumb's work, is that he's never been afraid to go beyond the boundaries of good taste and acceptability. But I would guess that Aileen Kaminsky's involvement in this kind of mitigates the sexism of a lot of his 60s and 70s work, like Fritz the Cat, for example, which is kind of guy orientated, wasn't it?
It's true. And for whatever misogyny he owns up to is more than balanced by her ability to another panel in the comic is, she's saying, "Oh, I like the fact that you can suppress some of my rambunctiousness. But just remember, I can bump you with her." And with her tush, she bumps him out of the frame. And it's literally their comic
Brilliant
dialogue is literally bouncing off of each other. And it's a wonderful thing to behold.
I mean, I'm now so intrigued that something, when I first looked at it, I thought, I'm now like, wow, that's really cool that it was a collaboration and that it's a confessional.
There's a brilliant R. Crumb documentary. And in it, he tells this just fascinating anecdote. As a kid, he became obsessed with Bugs Bunny. And not just obsessed, he acknowledges on camera, he says, I had these sexual arousal, feelings at seeing Bugs Bunny. And to think of that kind of self-admission in the context of the way he draws and the things that he draws is pretty amazing. And then for him to collaborate, it's a funny analogy, but I think of Paul McCartney bringing Linda on stage to play in his band.
Yeah.
And that's, to some people, that was horrible. But, as a musician, I really always had great respect for that, as I do for what he's doing. When you're a musician, and you start working in a realm that you might consider, professional, there's this pressure to only use top-notch, proven professionals with credits and credentials, and not your friends. And that's something that I always question, because if you're going to spend a big portion of your life working, even if it's doing something that you love, do you have to dismiss those people that you're close to, that you really like spending time with, just because they might not be the best guitar player or the best drummer? And so, her drawing is not quite as refined as his, and yet there's a spirit to her drawing that is genuine. And has as powerful an impact emotionally to the story as his fine hatchwork and characterization.
Yeah.
So I just love that he did it. And I know some people think he's a huge asshole and an SOB, which he very well may be. But in terms of what he's showing the world and sharing about his relationship, I just got endless respect for what they both do.
So are we saying that Aileen drew herself there?
Yes.
And he drew himself? Wow. I'm so intrigued by that.
You'll love the rest of the comic book. I urge you to check them out. They're on Amazon. I'm sure you could order it in the UK.
Yeah.
That was Dirty Laundry by Robert Crumb and Aileen Kaminsky, brought in by Dean Friedman. And before that, we were looking at Mad Magazine parodying Peanuts by Charles M. Schultz. Thank you to Dean and to Juliet for bringing in those wonderful suggestions. If you want to ask us any questions, you can find us all on our various social media. Juliet, where would we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Juliet Meyers, which is JulietMeyers, and also Instagram at Jules Y Myers.
And Dean, where do we find you?
All those likely places. My website is deanfriedman.com, and at Dean Friedman on Twitter and Dean Friedman Music on Facebook and, all over the joint.
And I'm on Twitter at KevF Comic Artist and on the website kevfcomicartist.com. Please click subscribe to be sure of hearing every episode when it comes out and leave us a review, why don't you? Thanks again to Dean Friedman and Juliet Meyers and to you for listening. I've been KevF and this has been Comic Cuts, the panel show. And wait, don't run away. We're not playing out with my usual end music. No, we're leaving you with something very special by Dean Friedman himself. See you next time.
Superman is a friend of mine. He drops by my house all the time. He's no different than me or you. He even helps start the barbecue. And when the rest of the guests get there, he grills those burgers medium rare. And I'm hobnobbing, sharing a meal with a man of steel. And I'm hobnobbing, hanging loose with a guy named Bruce. And I'm hobnobbing, pop tea with the cats from DC. I'm hobnobbing with Batman and Robin. Who's that bed in the refrigerator? It's none other than the Cape Crusader. The boy wonder is in the den, playing five-card stud with the X-Men. And no, it's not polite to point. Well, there's the Joker and the Penguin and the smoking a joint. And I'm hobnobbing, making the scene with Wolverine. And I'm hobnobbing, talking trash with the Flash. I'm hobnobbing, getting in the swing with the Thing. I'm hobnobbing with Batman and Robin. Daredevil, he's the man without fear, eating jalapeno peppers with a cold beer. The Green Hornet and Gato too, but all they ever do is argue. A Silver Surfer, he's so cool, floating on his board in my swimming pool. And I'm hobnobbing, shooting the breeze with Mr. Freeze. And I'm hobnobbing, getting tight with the Dark Knight. And I'm hobnobbing, sharing a feast with a beast. I'm hobnobbing with Batman and Robin. Anytime I feel less than zero, I get together with the superheroes. Hobnobbing, hobnobbing. I had a little problem, it wasn't too drastic. I got a helping hand from Mr. Fantastic. Someone liked the bathroom on the second floor, so we reached through the window when he opened the door. But when we walked in, we were thunderstruck. A Supergirl was in the bath with Howard the Duck. And I'm hobnobbing, cruising the room with Dr. Doom. And I'm hobnobbing, sipping cider with the Ghost Rider. Hobnobbing, talking up a storm with the storm. Hobnobbing with Batman and Robin. Sometimes Spider-Man swings by, but he's a pretty introspective guy. He's not all that dynamic, likes to hang around in his webbed hammock. Let me tell you something, Spidey's in for a shock, cause Gwendolyn was dancing with Doc Ock. And I'm hobnobbing, gonna linger with the web slinger. Hobnobbing, hobnobbing with the hobgoblin. Hobnobbing, just chilling with the master villain. Hobnobbing with Batman and Robin. After a while the teenagers appear, we send them out for pizza and beer. And when they return, the music is pumping, the temperature's hot and the joint is jumping. Thanks Stan and his gang and the cats from DC. Superheroes showing them how to party. Hobnobbing, making the scene with Wolverine. And I'm hobnobbing, talking trash with the Flash. Hobnobbing, shooting the breeze with Mr. Freeze. And I'm hobnobbing with Batman and Robin. Hobnobbing, hobnobbing. Hey, anyone seen the Invisible Girl? Hobnobbing. Yo, Johnny, give me a laugh. Hobnobbing. Hey, Swamp Thing, wipe your feet on the mat, man. Let me track that stuff all over the rug. Hobnobbing. Iceman, would you be so kind as put a few cubes in my drink? Thank you. Dr. Doom, I've been, I got this little pain up my side right here. Hobnobbing. Lex Luthor, nice to play.